The coffin was already lowering into the ground when I saw them. 3 people I had never seen before in my life, standing in the front row where only family was supposed to be. A tall woman around 40, holding the hand of a teenage girl, and next to them, a young man who looked to be in his early 20s. They were crying. Not the polite, distant crying of acquaintances. They were sobbing with the raw, broken grief of people who had lost someone they loved deeply. The kind of grief that was supposed to belong to me. My name is Marcus Thompson. I am 73 years old, and I am standing at my wife's funeral, staring at 3 strangers who somehow knew my Sarah better than I thought anyone could. The dirt was hitting the casket with that hollow sound that makes your bones ache, and I was standing there with my hands shaking, watching these people cry for my wife, my Sarah, the woman I had been married to for 48 years, the woman who had slept next to me every night for nearly half a century, the woman whose coffee I made every morning at 6:30 sharp, just the way she liked it, with 2 sugars and a splash of cream. But as I watched that woman in the front row collapse against the younger man, her whole body shaking with sobs, I realized something that made my blood run cold. I had no idea who my wife really was. The funeral had been beautiful, if you can call such a thing beautiful. Sarah would have liked it. White lilies everywhere because they were her favorite, though she only told me that once, 30 years ago, and I never forgot. The church was packed with people from our neighborhood, from the community center where she volunteered, from the book club she attended every Thursday for the past 15 years. Everyone loved Sarah. She had that way about her, making people feel seen, feel important, feel loved. I had been married to her since I was 25 years old. We met at a church social in 1977. And I knew from the moment I saw her smile that I wanted to spend the rest of my life making her happy. She was wearing a yellow dress that day, and her hair was pulled back in a bun, and when she laughed at something her friend said, the whole room seemed to light up. I was a shy man back then, working 2 jobs to support my mother after my father passed. But something about Sarah made me brave. Our courtship was simple and sweet. Walks in the park on Sunday afternoons, sharing a milkshake at the diner on 5th Street, long conversations about our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future. She wanted 3 children. I wanted to give her the world. We compromised on a modest life filled with love and respect and partnership. We were married 6 months later in that same church where we were now saying goodbye. She looked like an angel in her white dress, and when she said her vows, her voice was steady and clear. I love you, Marcus Thompson, she said, for better or for worse, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health until death do us part. And I believed every word. The children never came. We tried for years, and Sarah went through heartbreak after heartbreak with each negative test, each failed attempt. Eventually, we stopped trying and accepted that our family would just be the 2 of us. And that was enough. Or at least, I thought it was enough. I worked for 35 years at the Postal Service, coming home every evening at 6 o'clock. Sarah worked part-time at the library until she retired at 65. Our life was routine, predictable, comfortable. We had date night every Friday, just the 2 of us at the Italian restaurant on Market Street. We took a vacation every summer, usually to the same beach house in South Carolina that we had been renting for decades. We played cards with our neighbors on Saturday nights and went to church on Sunday mornings. It was a good life, a simple life, an honest life, or so I thought. Sarah had been sick for 8 months before she passed. Pancreatic cancer, the doctors said. Aggressive and merciless. By the time they found it, it was already too late. She went from the vibrant, energetic woman who could still beat me at tennis to a frail shadow in a hospital bed in what felt like weeks. I was with her every single day during those 8 months. I held her hand through the chemotherapy. I wiped her forehead when the fever came. I read to her from her favorite books when she was too weak to hold them herself. I slept in the chair next to her hospital bed because I could not bear the thought of her waking up alone and scared in the middle of the night. She told me she loved me every day. Even when she was so weak she could barely speak. She would squeeze my hand and whisper, "I love you, Marcus. You are my heart. You are my everything." And I believed her. God help me, I believed every word. 3 days before she died, she looked at me with those beautiful brown eyes that were now sunken and tired, and she said, "Marcus, there is something I need to tell you." But before she could continue, a nurse came in to adjust her medication, and the moment passed. The next day, she slipped into unconsciousness, and she never woke up again. I have spent every moment since then wondering what she was going to tell me. What secret was she carrying that was important enough to confess on her deathbed? Now, standing at her funeral, watching these 3 strangers cry for my wife, I was terrified that I was about to find out. The service ended, and people began to disperse, offering me their condolences with sad smiles and gentle pats on the shoulder. "I am so sorry for your loss, Marcus. She was such a wonderful woman, Marcus. She is in a better place now, Marcus." The words washed over me like water, meaningless and cold. But the 3 strangers did not leave. They stood by the grave, the woman still crying quietly, the teenage girl holding her hand, the young man with his arm around both of them. They were waiting for something, or someone, and I realized with a sinking feeling in my stomach that they were waiting for me. I walked over to them slowly, my legs feeling heavy and unsteady. Up close, I could see the woman more clearly. She was beautiful in a way that reminded me painfully of Sarah. Same warm brown skin, same high cheekbones, same elegant way of holding herself even in grief. The teenage girl looked like a younger version of the woman, with the same features but softer, less defined. And the young man was tall and broad-shouldered with kind eyes that were red from crying. "Excuse me," I said, my voice coming out rougher than I intended. "I am Marcus Thompson, Sarah's husband. Can I ask who you are?" The woman looked at me with an expression I could not quite read. There was grief there, yes, but also something else. Fear? Guilt? Shame? "Mr. Thompson," she said quietly, "my name is Diane. Diane Mitchell. This is my daughter, Jasmine, and my son, Robert." She paused, taking a deep breath that seemed to cost her everything. "We are Sarah's family." The words did not make sense at first. They hung in the air between us like something foreign and impossible. Sarah's family. But I was Sarah's family. I was her husband. I was the person who knew her best, who loved her most, who had promised to be with her until death parted us. "I am sorry," I said, shaking my head. "I do not understand." "What do you mean, you are Sarah's family?" Diane looked down at her hands, twisting them together in a gesture that was so achingly familiar it made my chest hurt. Sarah used to do the same thing when she was nervous or upset. "Mr. Thompson," she said slowly, carefully, as if she were defusing a bomb with her words. "Sarah was my mother." The world tilted sideways. The ground beneath my feet felt suddenly unstable, as if the earth itself was betraying me. I heard myself laugh, a harsh, bitter sound that did not sound like it came from my throat. "That is not possible," I said. "Sarah could not have children. We tried for years. We grieved together over the children we would never have. She could not have children." Diane looked up at me then, and I saw tears streaming down her face. "She had me when she was 16 years old, Mr. Thompson. Before she met you. Before she became the woman you knew. She gave me up for adoption because she had no choice. Her parents forced her to. But she never stopped being my mother." The information hit me like physical blows, one after another. Sarah had a child. Sarah gave up a child. Sarah had been searching for that child, Finding that child, knowing that child, loving that child. For how long? And she never told me. In 48 years of marriage, she never said a word. How long, I heard myself ask. How long have you known her? Diane wiped her eyes with a tissue that was already soaked through. 23 years. I found her when I was 18. I hired someone to help me track down my birth mother, and we found her living here with you. First, she was scared. She asked me not to tell anyone, especially not you. She said it would complicate everything, that you would not understand, that it was better this way. 23 years. Sarah had been living a double life for 23 years. While I thought we were sharing everything, she was keeping the biggest secret of her life locked away from me. All those Thursday book clubs. All those volunteering sessions at the community center. All those trips to visit her cousin in Atlanta that she took by herself twice a year. Had any of it been real? I felt like I was going to be sick. The cemetery was spinning around me, and I could not seem to catch my breath. The young man, Robert, stepped forward and gently took my arm. Mr. Thompson, maybe you should sit down. You do not look so good. I shook his hand off more roughly than I intended. Do not touch me. Do not any of you touch me. You have no right. You have no right to be here, to cry for her, to call her your family when I did not even know you existed. Diane flinched as if I had struck her, but she did not back away. Mr. Thompson, I understand you are upset, but please understand, this was not easy for any of us. My mother loved you very much. She talked about you all the time. She was proud to be your wife, but she also loved us. She loved being a grandmother to Jasmine. She loved watching Robert grow up. She tried to give us both lives, but she knew she could not tell you without risking everything. A grandmother. Sarah was a grandmother. The woman who had cried in my arms over not being able to have children had been a grandmother for how many years? I looked at the teenage girl, Jasmine, who was staring at the ground, tears dripping off her chin. How old are you? I asked her. 15. She whispered. Grandma Sarah was at my birth. She was at every birthday party. She taught me how to braid my hair and how to make her famous peach cobbler and how to stand up for myself when people tried to put me down. Every birthday party. For 15 years, Sarah had been going to birthday parties for a granddaughter I did not know existed. For 15 years, she had been baking her famous peach cobbler for people who were not me. For 15 years, she had been sharing pieces of herself that she had kept hidden from the man who loved her most. I staggered backward, and this time when Robert reached out to steady me, I let him. My legs felt like they were going to give out, and my vision was blurring with tears I refused to let fall. Not here. Not in front of these strangers who somehow were not strangers to my wife. I need to go, I said, my voice breaking. I need to leave. Mr. Thompson, please. Diane called out as I turned away. Please let me explain. Let me tell you about her. Let me tell you why she did what she did. But I was already walking away, stumbling through the cemetery with my head spinning and my heart shattering into pieces I was not sure could ever be put back together. Behind me, I could hear Diane crying, Jasmine sobbing, Robert trying to comfort them both. The sound followed me all the way to my car, where I sat in the driver's seat with my hands on the steering wheel, staring at nothing, trying to understand how the life I thought I knew had turned out to be a complete and total lie. I drove home in a daze, barely seeing the road in front of me. Our house looked exactly the same as it had this morning when I left for the funeral. The same white fence that Sarah insisted we paint every 2 years. The same rose bushes she planted along the walkway. The same blue shutters she picked out because she said they reminded her of the ocean. Everything looked the same, but nothing would ever be the same again. Inside, the house was too quiet. For 8 months, I had been taking care of Sarah, and the house had been filled with the sounds of her breathing, her coughing, her soft voice thanking me for things she should never have had to thank me for. Now there was nothing but silence, and in that silence, I could hear all the lies she had told me echoing off the walls. I went to our bedroom and stood in the doorway, looking at the bed we had shared for 48 years. How many nights had she lain there next to me, thinking about her secret daughter? How many mornings had she woken up and kissed me goodbye before going to visit grandchildren I knew nothing about? How many times had she looked into my eyes and said I love you while hiding the biggest part of her life from me? I walked to her closet and opened it, breathing in the scent of her perfume that still lingered on her clothes. Lavender and vanilla, the same scent she had worn since the day we met. I ran my hands over her dresses, her sweaters, her coats, looking for something, anything, that would make sense of this nightmare. And then I saw it. On the top shelf, pushed to the very back, was a shoebox I had never noticed before. My hands were shaking as I pulled it down and carried it to the bed. The box was not heavy, but it felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds in my hands. I opened it slowly, afraid of what I might find inside. And there it was, the evidence of the life Sarah had been living without me. Photographs. Dozens and dozens of photographs. Sarah holding a newborn baby with tears streaming down her face. Sarah at a birthday party with a little girl blowing out candles. Sarah at a high school graduation, her arm around a young woman in a cap and gown. Sarah at a wedding, dancing with Diane while both of them laughed. Sarah with her arms around two children, Jasmine and Robert, all three of them smiling at the camera with pure, unfiltered joy. In every single photograph, Sarah looked happy. Not the quiet, content happiness I thought we shared. This was different. This was radiant, glowing, complete happiness. The happiness of a woman who had everything she ever wanted. And I was not in a single one of these pictures. Underneath the photographs were letters. Handwritten letters on pretty stationery with flowers along the edges. I picked up the first one with trembling hands and began to read. Dear Mom, it started. The word Mom hit me like a punch to the gut. Thank you for coming to Jasmine's piano recital yesterday. She was so nervous, but when she saw you in the audience, her whole face lit up. You have no idea what it means to me that you are in her life, that she gets to know her grandmother. I never had that growing up, and I am so grateful that my children do not have to experience that loss. I know the situation is complicated. I know you have another life, another family. But please know that to us, you are not a secret or a burden. You are our mother, our grandmother, our blessing. We love you so much. All my love, Diane. I read letter after letter, each one filled with love and gratitude and detailed descriptions of a life Sarah had been living parallel to ours. School events and family dinners and holidays spent together and inside jokes and shared memories and all the beautiful, ordinary moments that make up a life. A life I knew nothing about. There were letters from Jasmine too, written in the messy handwriting of a child learning to write. Dear Grandma Sarah, thank you for teaching me how to make cookies. They were so yummy. I love you infinity times infinity. And letters from Robert. Grandma, thanks for coming to my basketball game. When I made that winning shot and looked up in the stands and saw you cheering for me, it was the best feeling in the world. I sat on that bed surrounded by evidence of my wife's secret life, and I cried. I cried for the man I used to be, who thought he knew the woman he loved. I cried for the marriage I thought we had, built on honesty and trust and partnership. I cried for all the years Sarah had spent living two separate lives, torn between the family she chose and the family she had been forced to give up. But most of all, I cried because even though I was furious and betrayed and heartbroken, I could not stop loving her. Even now, even after discovering her deepest secret, I still loved her with every fiber of my being. And that made everything hurt so much more. I do not know how long I sat there, But eventually, the tears stopped and something else took their place. Questions. So many questions that Sarah would never be able to answer. Why did she not trust me with this? Did she think I would have left her if I knew? Did she think I would not have understood? Did she not love me enough to share this part of herself with me? The doorbell rang, pulling me out of my thoughts. I almost did not answer it. I wanted to stay in this room forever, surrounded by the ghosts of the life I thought I knew. But the doorbell rang again, persistent and insistent, and I forced myself to get up and answer it. It was Diane. She was standing on my front porch with red, swollen eyes, and that same guilty, desperate expression she had at the cemetery. In her hands, she was holding a manila envelope. "Mr. Thompson," she said quietly, "I know you do not want to see me. I know you probably hate me right now. But before my mother died, she gave me this and made me promise to give it to you after she was gone. She said it was important. She said it would explain everything." I took the envelope from her hands without a word. It was addressed to me in Sarah's handwriting, that elegant script I knew so well. "To my beloved Marcus, to be opened after I am gone." "Thank you," I said, my voice hoarse from crying. "I will read it." Diane nodded, but she did not leave. She stood there on my porch, looking at me with eyes that were so much like Sarah's it hurt to meet her gaze. "Mr. Thompson, can I tell you something about my mother? Just one thing, and then I will leave you alone." I did not trust myself to speak, so I just nodded. "Every single time I saw her, she would tell me stories about you. About how you made her coffee every morning exactly the way she liked it. About how you still opened doors for her after 48 years of marriage. About how you read to her every night before bed. About how you never forgot her birthday or their anniversary or the anniversary of the day you first met. She was so proud to be your wife, Mr. Thompson. She loved you with her whole heart. Please do not ever doubt that." Diane's words were meant to comfort me, but they only made the pain worse. Because if Sarah loved me with her whole heart, why did she keep such a huge part of herself hidden from me? If she was so proud to be my wife, why did she create an entirely separate life that I knew nothing about? I watched Diane walk back to her car, and I stood on that porch holding Sarah's final letter to me, knowing that once I read it, everything would change again. The truth was in that envelope, and I was terrified of what it would say. I went back inside and sat down at the kitchen table where Sarah and I had eaten thousands of meals together. I stared at that envelope for a long time, my fingers tracing her handwriting, imagining her sitting here writing these words, knowing they would be the last thing she ever said to me. Finally, I opened it. Inside was a letter, several pages long, written in Sarah's careful handwriting. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the pages, but I forced myself to focus and read. "My dearest Marcus," it began. "If you are reading this, then I am gone and you have met Diane. I can only imagine how betrayed and angry and confused you must be feeling right now. And you have every right to all of those feelings. What I did was wrong. The lies I told, the secrets I kept, the double life I lived for 23 years, it was all wrong. But please, my love, let me explain. Not to excuse what I did, but so you can understand why I did it. When I was 16 years old, I was a different person than the woman you knew. I was wild and reckless and desperate to escape the suffocating control of my parents. I fell in love, or what I thought was love, with a boy named David who promised me the world and then disappeared the moment I told him I was pregnant. My parents were furious. They sent me away to live with an aunt in another state until the baby was born. They told everyone I was sick, that I needed special treatment, that I would be back soon. They made me understand that keeping the baby was not an option. They were respected members of the church, prominent in the community. A teenage pregnancy would ruin everything. So I gave birth to my beautiful baby girl in a hospital where no one knew my name, and I held her for exactly 10 minutes before they took her away. 10 minutes. That is all I got with my first child. 10 minutes to memorize her face, to count her fingers and toes, to whisper to her that I loved her and I was sorry and I hoped she would have a better life than I could give her. And then she was gone, and I was expected to go home and pretend it never happened. But I never forgot. Not for a single day. I thought about her every birthday, wondering what she looked like, what she was doing, if she was happy, if she ever thought about me. And I carried the shame and the grief of that loss with me for years. Changed me. It made me cautious and careful and determined to build a life that was stable and good and honest. And then I met you, Marcus. My beautiful, kind, steady Marcus. You made me feel safe for the first time in my life. You treated me with respect and gentleness and love. You asked me to marry you, and I said yes because I knew that with you, I could build the kind of life I had always wanted. A life of dignity and peace and partnership. And I never told you about Diane because I was terrified you would see me differently. I was terrified you would think I was damaged or unworthy or not the woman you thought I was. The years passed and we tried to have children of our own. Each failure broke my heart all over again. Not just because we could not have babies, but because I had already had a baby and I had given her away. The guilt and grief of that choice haunted me every single day. I felt like I was being punished for what I had done. And I still could not tell you because by then, we had built our life together. And I was too afraid of losing you. When Diane found me, I was terrified. She showed up at the library where I worked, 20 years old and so beautiful it took my breath away. She looked exactly like I did at that age. She told me she had been searching for me for 2 years. She told me she did not want anything from me except to know where she came from. She asked if we could have coffee and just talk. And I said yes because I had been waiting my whole life for that moment. Marcus, meeting Diane again was like being given a second chance at something I thought I had lost forever. She was not angry with me. She understood why I had given her up. She had been adopted by good people who loved her, and her life had been happy. She just wanted to know me. She wanted her mother, and I wanted to be her mother. I should have told you then. I know that, but I was a coward. I was terrified that if you knew the truth, you would leave me. Or worse, you would stay but look at me differently. You would see the broken, shameful girl I had been instead of the woman I had become. So I lied. I told Diane that my husband did not know about her. And I asked her to keep our relationship secret. And she agreed because she did not want to cause me any trouble. She just wanted to be part of my life in whatever way she could. For 23 years I lived 2 lives. There was my life with you, my steady, predictable, comfortable life with the man I loved more than anything. And there was my life with Diane and her children, my secret life where I got to be the mother and grandmother I never thought I would be. Every Thursday book club was actually dinner with Diane. Every trip to visit my cousin in Atlanta was actually a visit to see Jasmine and Robert. Every volunteering session at the community center that ran late was actually time spent with the family I never told you about. I am not asking you to forgive me, Marcus. What I did was unforgivable. I lied to you for more than half our marriage. I kept a massive secret from the man who trusted me completely. I built a wall between us that you did not even know existed. And I robbed you of the chance to know Diane and her children, who are wonderful people that you would have loved. But I am asking you to understand that I did it because I was afraid. I was afraid of losing you. I was afraid of destroying the life we had built together. I was afraid that if you knew the truth about my past, you would not love me anymore. And I could not bear the thought of living without your love. It was selfish and wrong and hurtful, but it came from a place of desperate fear, not from a lack of love for you. Please know that every moment I spent with you was real. Every I love you I whispered was genuine. Every kiss, every laugh, every quiet evening on the porch, every Friday date night, every summer vacation. All of it was real and true and precious to me. You were the love of my life, Marcus Thompson. You were my home, my safe place, my greatest blessing. Being your wife was the honor of my lifetime. But Diane was also a blessing. Being her mother, even in secret, even in the shadows, gave me a joy I cannot describe. Watching Jasmine grow up, teaching Robert how to cook my recipes, hearing Diane call me Mom, it healed something in me that had been broken since I was 16 years old. It did not replace you or diminish my love for you. It existed alongside it, in a separate space that I should have shared with you but did not because I was too afraid. If you have found the photographs and letters, then you know how much they loved me and how much I loved them. I know it must be painful to see how happy I looked in those pictures, to realize that I was living this whole other life that you knew nothing about. But please understand, Marcus, my happiness with them did not mean I was unhappy with you. It just meant I was complete. For the first time in my entire life, I had both the family I chose and the family I thought I had lost forever. And even though I knew it was wrong to keep it secret, I could not give either one of you up. 3 days before I died, I tried to tell you the truth. Do you remember? I looked at you and said there was something I needed to tell you, but the nurse interrupted. I was so relieved when she did because I was terrified. I was dying, Marcus, and I still could not find the courage to tell you the truth to your face. So I asked Diane to give you this letter after I was gone. I am a coward even in death, unable to face the consequences of my choices, leaving you to deal with all of this alone. I have instructed Diane to answer any questions you have. She knows everything about our life together because I talked about you constantly. She knows how much I loved you. She knows that you were the best part of my life. And if you are willing, if you can find it in your heart to forgive me even a little bit, I hope you will get to know her. I hope you will let her tell you stories about the parts of my life you never saw. I hope you will meet Jasmine and Robert and see what wonderful people they have become. I hope you will understand that all of us loved me, and I loved all of you, and there was enough love to go around even if I was too afraid to let you all share it together. I know I am asking too much. I know I have no right to ask you for anything after what I have done. But you are the kindest, most generous man I have ever known, Marcus. You spent 48 years proving that to me every single day. So I am asking, please, do not let my mistakes rob you of the chance to have a family. Diane wants to know you. She wants to hear stories about me from your perspective. She wants to understand the woman I was with you. And Jasmine and Robert want to meet their grandfather, even if they never had the chance to call you that while I was alive. You do not have to decide right now. You do not have to decide ever. But please know that they are good people, Marcus. They are not responsible for my lies. They are just people who loved me and who lost me, just like you. And maybe, if you can find it in your heart, you can all grieve together and heal together and become the family we should have been all along. I love you, Marcus Thompson. I have loved you since the moment I saw you at that church social in 1977. I loved you when you proposed to me with that tiny ring you saved up 6 months to buy. I loved you on our wedding day when you cried during our vows. I loved you through all the years we tried to have children and could not. I loved you when you held my hand through chemotherapy. I loved you when you read to me in the hospital. I loved you in the last moment I was conscious enough to feel you kiss my forehead and tell me it was okay to let go. And I will love you forever, even now that I am gone. I will love you from wherever I am, and I will spend eternity wishing I had been brave enough to trust you with the whole truth while I still had the chance. Forgive me, my love. Forgive me if you can. And please, please take care of yourself. You deserve to be happy. You deserve to live a full life. You deserve to be loved and cherished and appreciated. And if my family can give you any of that, I hope you will let them try. All my love. Forever and always, your Sarah. I read the letter 3 times, and by the end, I was sobbing so hard I could barely see the words on the page. My heart was broken into a million pieces, but somehow, Sarah's words were starting to put them back together, even as they explained how they got broken in the first place. I was still angry. I was still hurt. I was still reeling from the betrayal of learning that my wife had kept such a massive secret from me for so many years. But I also understood. God help me, I understood. Because I knew Sarah. I knew her fear, her need to protect the life we had built, her terror of losing the people she loved. I knew her heart, and I knew that everything she did, as wrong as it was, came from a place of love and fear, not malice. I sat at that kitchen table for hours, holding Sarah's letter and thinking about the choice in front of me. I could stay angry. I could reject Diane and her children and live the rest of my life alone with my grief and my bitterness. Or I could do what Sarah asked. I could be brave enough to forgive her, to try to understand her, and to open my heart to the family she kept hidden from me. The next morning, I called the number Diane had left with me at the funeral. She answered on the second ring, her voice cautious and hopeful. "Diane," I said, "this is Marcus. Marcus Thompson. I read Sarah's letter. Can we meet? I think we need to talk." There was a long silence on the other end of the line, and then I heard her crying softly. "Yes," she said. "Yes, Mr. Thompson. I would like that very much." We agreed to meet at a coffee shop the next day. I spent the rest of the morning looking through the photographs again, studying the faces of the people Sarah loved, trying to see what she saw in them. And slowly, something inside me started to shift. These were not strangers. These were Sarah's family. And if they were Sarah's family, then in some way they were my family too. When I walked into the coffee shop the next day, Diane was already there, sitting at a corner table with her hands wrapped around a cup of tea. She looked nervous and tired, like she had not slept much. When she saw me, she stood up quickly, her eyes filling with tears. "Mr. Thompson, thank you for coming. I was not sure you would." "I am not sure either," I said honestly. "But Sarah asked me to do this, and I spent 48 years trying to make her happy. I figure I can try one more time." We sat down across from each other, and for a long moment, neither of us knew what to say. Finally, I pulled out the letter Sarah had written me and placed it on the table between us. She explained everything, I said. Why she gave you up. Why she kept you a secret. Why she lived the way she did. And I understand it, even though it hurts like hell. Diane nodded, wiping her eyes. "She loved you so much, Mr. Thompson. I know that does not make what she did right. I know it does not take away the pain. But please believe me when I tell you that she talked about you with so much love and respect. You were her hero. You were the reason she felt safe enough to let me back into her life because she knew that no matter what happened, she had you to come home to." Her words were like a balm on my wounded heart. "Tell me about her," I said. "Tell me about the Sarah you knew. The Sarah I never got to see." And so Diane told me stories. She told me about the first time they met, how Sarah cried and hugged her and apologized over and over for giving her up. She told me about their Thursday dinners, how Sarah would cook all of Diane's favorite foods and ask endless questions about her life, trying to make up for lost time. She told me about how Sarah was at the hospital when both Jasmine and Robert were born, how she held them and cried and thanked Diane for giving her the chance to be a grandmother. She told me about the little things, how Sarah taught Jasmine to braid her hair the same way Sarah's mother had taught her, how Sarah went to every single one of Robert's basketball games, sitting in the back so no one would ask questions, but cheering loudly every time he scored, how Sarah made her famous peach cobbler for every family gathering, the same recipe she made for me on special occasions. She told me about the big things too, how Sarah helped Diane through her divorce, showing up at her door with food and tissues and the kind of wisdom that only comes from living a long life. How Sarah paid for Jasmine's braces when Diane was struggling financially, never asking to be paid back. How Sarah sat with Robert for hours helping him with his college applications, reading every essay and offering gentle corrections. With every story Diane told, I saw a different side of the woman I loved. Not a different person, but different facets of the same Sarah. The Sarah who loved me was patient and steady and content with our quiet life. The Sarah who loved Diane and her children was vibrant and involved and making up for lost time. Both versions were real. Both versions were true. Can I ask you something? I said after Diane finished telling me about Sarah's last visit with them, just 2 weeks before she became too sick to leave the hospital. Of course. Did she ever regret marrying me? Did she ever wish she had told me the truth from the beginning? Diane looked at me with those eyes that were so much like Sarah's, and she shook her head firmly. Never. She told me once that marrying you was the best decision she ever made. She said you gave her a life of dignity and respect and unconditional love. She said that knowing you were waiting for her at home made it possible for her to be strong enough to face the past she had been running from. You were her foundation, Mr. Thompson. Everything else was built on top of that. We talked for 3 hours that day. Diane showed me pictures on her phone, videos of Sarah laughing with Jasmine and Robert, recordings of her voice that I had been terrified I would forget. She told me about Sarah's favorite things to do with them, her inside jokes, her quirks and habits that were the same with them as they were with me. Before we left, I asked one more question. The question that had been haunting me since the funeral. Why did she not trust me enough to tell me? Did she really think I would have left her? Diane was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. I do not think it was about not trusting you, Mr. Thompson. I think it was about not trusting herself. She carried so much shame about what happened when she was 16. She was convinced that if you knew the truth, you would see her as damaged or less than or unworthy of your love. It was not rational, but shame rarely is. She built her life with you on the foundation of being the woman she wanted to be, not the girl she was. And she was terrified that the truth would destroy that foundation. I understood that. More than I wanted to admit, I understood that. Because I knew Sarah's heart. I knew how hard she worked to be good, to be worthy, to be deserving of love. And I knew that kind of shame, once it takes root, grows deep and twisted and nearly impossible to pull out. Before I left the coffee shop, I made a decision. Diane, I said, I would like to meet Jasmine and Robert. If they are willing, if they want to know me. Diane's whole face lit up with hope and gratitude. They would love that, Mr. Thompson. They have been asking about you since the funeral. They want to hear stories about their grandmother from your perspective. And maybe, I said slowly, carefully, maybe you could all come to the house for dinner this Sunday. I could make Sarah's pot roast. She always said it was my one culinary achievement. Diane started crying again, but this time they were tears of joy. We would be honored. Thank you. Thank you for giving us a chance. That Sunday, I spent all day cooking Sarah's pot roast, following the recipe card she had written out for me years ago in her careful handwriting. I set the table with our good china, the plates we only used on special occasions. I put out the cloth napkins Sarah had embroidered. I filled the house with the smells and warmth of a family dinner. When the doorbell rang at 6 o'clock sharp, I took a deep breath and opened the door. Diane was there with Jasmine and Robert, all 3 of them dressed nicely and looking nervous and hopeful. Jasmine was holding a bouquet of white lilies. These are for you, she said shyly. They were Grandma's favorite. I took the flowers with hands that were not quite steady. Thank you, Jasmine. That is very thoughtful. Please, all of you, come in. I gave them a tour of the house, showing them the places where Sarah lived her other life. The kitchen where she cooked breakfast every morning. The living room where we watched television together every evening. The back porch where we sat in the summer twilight and talked about everything and nothing. the garden where she grew her roses. Every room was filled with memories of Sarah, and I watched Diane and her children take it all in with wonder and sadness. "Is this where she slept?" Jasmine asked, standing in the doorway of our bedroom. "For 48 years, I said. That was her side of the bed. She always insisted on sleeping closest to the window so she could see the stars at night. She told me about that," Jasmine said softly. "She said she liked to make wishes on the stars." "What did she wish for?" I asked, genuinely curious. "That everyone she loved would be happy," Jasmine replied, "even if they could not all be together." We ate dinner at the dining room table where Sarah and I had shared thousands of meals. I told them stories about our courtship, our wedding, our early years together. They told me stories about their time with Sarah, the traditions they had built, the memories they cherished. And slowly, over pot roast and mashed potatoes and green beans, we started to become something like a family. Robert asked me about my work at the Postal Service, and I told him about the routes I used to walk, the people I got to know over 35 years of delivering their mail. Jasmine asked me if Sarah really could not cook when we first got married, and I laughed and told her about the time Sarah tried to make spaghetti and somehow managed to burn water. "Do you still do that?" Diane asked. "Go to the Italian restaurant on Market Street every Friday." "I have not been back since she got sick," I admitted. "It does not feel right without her." "Maybe we could go together sometime," Diane suggested gently, "if you wanted company." I looked around the table at these three people who were strangers a week ago and family today. I thought about Sarah and how she must have felt sitting at two different tables, loving two different families, carrying the weight of keeping them separate. And I made a choice. "I would like that," I said. "I would like that very much." Over the next few months, we built something new together. We had dinner every Sunday, rotating between my house and Diane's apartment. Diane helped me go through Sarah's things, telling me stories about items I did not know had significance. A bracelet Sarah wore to Jasmine's first dance recital. A scarf Diane had given her for Christmas. A photo album I had never seen before, filled with pictures of the life Sarah lived when she was not with me. I went to Robert's basketball games and cheered from the stands, just like Sarah used to do. I helped Jasmine with her homework, teaching her the same math tricks I had learned when I was her age. I took Diane out for coffee every Thursday, the same day Sarah used to have her secret dinners with her daughter. And slowly, painfully, I started to heal. The anger faded. The betrayal hurt less. The confusion gave way to understanding. I could not change what Sarah did. I could not go back and demand she tell me the truth 23 years ago. But I could move forward. I could honor her memory by doing what she could not do in life, bringing her two families together. One evening, about 6 months after Sarah's funeral, Diane and I were sitting on my back porch, watching the sun set over the garden Sarah had loved so much. Robert and Jasmine were inside, looking through old photo albums and laughing at pictures of Sarah from the 70s. "Can I tell you something?" Diane asked quietly. Of course. I was so angry at her for so many years, for giving me up, for keeping me a secret, for not fighting harder to have a relationship with me that was out in the open. I understood why she did it, but I was still angry. And then she got sick, and all that anger just disappeared because I realized I was about to lose her again. And I would have given anything for just one more day with her, even if it had to be in secret. "I know what you mean," I said. "I was so angry when I found out about you. I felt betrayed and lied to and foolish for not knowing. But then I read her letter, and I realized that she was just human, flawed and scared and doing the best she could with an impossible situation. And I would give anything to have her back, secrets and all." "Do you think she knows?" Diane asked, looking up at the darkening sky. "Do you think she can see us now, together like this?" "I like to think so," I said. "I like to think she is somewhere watching us and smiling because we finally did what she could not. We made it work." Diane reached over and took my hand, squeezing it gently. Thank you for giving us a chance, Mr. Thompson. Thank you for not shutting us out. Thank you for being the kind of man my mother always said you were. Call me Marcus, I said. If we are going to be family, you should call me Marcus. She smiled through her tears. Okay, Marcus. And thank you for everything. That night, after Diane and the kids had gone home, I went to my bedroom and opened the drawer where I kept Sarah's letter. I had read it dozens of times in the past 6 months, and each time I found something new, some layer of meaning I had missed before. I sat on the edge of the bed and read it again, and this time, instead of pain, I felt something close to peace. Sarah had made mistakes. She had lied and kept secrets and lived a double life. But she had also loved fiercely and completely. She had loved me. She had loved Diane. She had loved Jasmine and Robert. And somehow, impossibly, she had managed to give all of us the love we needed, even if she could not give it to us all at the same time. I thought about the man I had been 6 months ago, standing at her grave and feeling like my entire world had shattered. And I thought about the man I was now, surrounded by a family I never knew I had, learning to love again in a different way. Sarah, I whispered to the empty room, I forgive you. I do not know if I could have done it right after I found out. I do not know if I could have done it without reading your letter and meeting Diane and seeing how much they all loved you. But I forgive you, and I hope wherever you are, you can forgive yourself too. The room was quiet, but I swear I felt something shift in the air. Presence warm and familiar, like Sarah was there with me one last time. And then it was gone, and I was alone again. But this time, being alone did not feel quite so lonely. A year after Sarah's funeral, we gathered at her grave on the anniversary of her death. All of us together. Me, Diane, Jasmine, Robert, and Eleanor, my neighbor who had become a good friend. We each brought white lilies and placed them on her headstone. Diane had arranged for a new headstone, one that told a more complete story. Sarah Thompson, it read, Beloved wife, mother, and grandmother, 1948 to 2024. She loved more than she knew how to show. The words were perfect. They captured everything Sarah was, all the love and all the fear and all the impossible choices she made trying to protect everyone she cared about. We stood there in silence for a while, each of us lost in our own memories. Then Jasmine stepped forward and placed a hand on the headstone. Grandma, she said softly, I know you can hear me. I want you to know that we are okay. All of us. Grandpa Marcus is teaching me how to make his pot roast, and it is almost as good as yours. Mom is doing better, not crying as much. Robert got a scholarship to college. And we are all together now just like you wanted. I think you would be happy about that. Robert stepped forward next. Yeah, Grandma. We miss you like crazy, but we are taking care of each other. And we are taking care of Grandpa too. He is part of our family now. For real this time. No more secrets. Diane was crying as she knelt down and touched the headstone. I love you, Mom. I forgive you. I wish you had trusted us all enough to bring us together while you were still alive. But I understand why you did not. And I am grateful for every moment we had, even if they were stolen moments. Even if they had to be secret. You gave me the gift of being your daughter, and I will cherish that for the rest of my life. Then it was my turn. I stepped forward and placed my hand over Diane's, both of us touching the cold stone that marked where Sarah's body rested. Hello, my love, I said, my voice thick with emotion. I have so much to tell you. I met your family. I got to know them. And you were right, they are wonderful people. Diane is strong and kind, just like you. Jasmine is smart and funny and has your smile. Robert is thoughtful and hardworking and has your generous heart. They loved you so much, Sarah, just as much as I did. And now I love them too. I paused, struggling to get the next words out. I spent a lot of time being angry at you this year. Angry that you did not trust me. Angry that you kept such a huge part of your life hidden from me. Angry that I had to find out about your secret family at your funeral instead of years ago when we could have all been together. But I am not angry anymore. I understand now. You were protecting your heart and theirs and mine, and you did the best you could with an impossible situation. I wish you were here to see this. I wish you could see your whole family standing together at your grave, loving each other because we all loved you. I wish you could hear Jasmine laugh when I tell her stories about you. I wish you could see Robert's face light up when Diane shows him old pictures. I wish you could hold my hand and tell me I did good, that you are proud of me for being brave enough to do what you could not. I took a deep breath, feeling the tears streaming down my face. But mostly, I just wish I could tell you one more time that I love you, that I always loved you, that I will love you until the day I die. You were not perfect, Sarah. You made mistakes, but you were mine and that was enough. That will always be enough. We stood there together, Sarah's whole family, and we cried and held each other and remembered the woman who had loved us all in her own complicated, imperfect way. And when we finally walked away from that grave, we walked together, linked arm in arm. A family built on love and forgiveness and the courage to move forward even when the past was painful. That night, we all went back to my house for dinner. It had become our tradition, gathering together on the hard days to support each other. Diane made Sarah's famous peach cobbler using the recipe Sarah had taught her years ago. Jasmine set the table with the good china. Robert helped me cook the pot roast. And Eleanor brought her famous cornbread that she always made for special occasions. As we sat around the table eating and talking and laughing, I looked around at these people who had become my family. I thought about how a year ago, I had been alone in this house, grieving the wife I thought I knew and angry at the secrets she kept. And now my house was filled with warmth and laughter and love again. Marcus, Eleanor said from across the table. You look like you are thinking deep thoughts. I was just thinking about Sarah, I said honestly, about how she would have loved to see this. All of us together like this. She is seeing it, Diane said softly. I have to believe that. I have to believe she knows we are okay. Do you think she would be proud of us? Jasmine asked. For not staying angry? For becoming a family? I think she would be amazed, I said. And yes, I think she would be very proud. Robert raised his glass of sweet tea. To Grandma Sarah. For loving us enough to bring us together, even if she had to wait until she was gone to make it happen. To Grandma Sarah, we all echoed, clinking our glasses together. After dinner, Jasmine asked if she could see more pictures of Sarah. I brought out all the photo albums I had been keeping, and we spread them out on the living room floor. Diane brought out her collection too, and for the first time we put them side by side. Sarah's two lives finally merged into one complete story. Here is our wedding day, I said, pointing to a picture of Sarah in her white dress, looking young and hopeful and beautiful. And here is the day I found her, Diane said, showing a picture of her and Sarah meeting for the first time, both of them crying and hugging. Here we are on our 25th anniversary trip to the beach, I said. And here she is at my wedding, Diane added, showing a picture of Sarah dancing at Diane's reception, her face radiant with joy. We went through every picture, every memory, weaving Sarah's two lives together until they formed one complete tapestry. And it was beautiful, complicated and messy and imperfect, but beautiful. You know what I realize? I said as we finished going through the last album. Sarah was not living two separate lives. She was living one life that was bigger than she knew how to share. She loved us all, and she found a way to give each of us what we needed, even if it meant she had to split herself in half to do it. That is a beautiful way to think about it, Diane said, wiping her eyes. Do you think you will ever get married again, Grandpa? Jasmine asked suddenly. The question surprised me. I do not think so, sweetheart. I had 48 years with the love of my life. That is more than most people get. I am grateful for the time we had. But you could still be happy with someone else, Robert said. Grandma would want you to be happy. I am happy, I said, looking around the room at all of them. I have all of you now. I have Sunday dinners and basketball games and homework help and stories and laughter. I have a family. That is more than enough happiness for me. As everyone was getting ready to leave that night, Diane pulled me aside. Marcus, there is something I have been wanting to give you. Something my mother asked me to save until I thought you were ready. She pulled out a small box from her purse and handed it to me. I opened it with trembling hands and found a gold locket inside. I had never seen it before. Open it, Diane said softly. I pressed the tiny clasp and the locket sprang open. Inside were two pictures. On one side was a picture of me from our wedding day, young and smiling and so in love. On the other side was a picture of Diane as a baby, the daughter Sarah had given up but never stopped loving. She wore this every day, Diane said quietly. Every single day. She kept both of her families close to her heart, even when she could not keep them close in life. I stared at that locket, at the two pictures Sarah had carried with her for who knows how many years, and I finally understood. She had not been lying when she said she loved me. She had not been pretending when she built a life with me. She had just been trying to hold on to everything she loved, terrified that if she let go of any of it, it would all fall apart. Thank you, I said to Diane, closing the locket and holding it tight in my fist. Thank you for waiting until I was ready. Thank you for being patient with me. Thank you for letting us in, she replied. Thank you for not closing the door on us. Thank you for being exactly the man my mother always said you were. After everyone left, I sat in my bedroom and looked at that locket for a long time. Then I put it on, clasping it around my neck so it rested over my heart. Sarah's two families, finally united, just like she had always secretly wished. I looked at myself in the mirror, an old man wearing his dead wife's locket, and I smiled. Not a bitter smile, not a sad smile, a genuine smile of peace and acceptance and hope. Sarah, I whispered to my reflection, to the empty room, to wherever she was. We did it. We became the family you always wanted us to be. Rest easy, my love. Your story has a happy ending after all. The next morning, I woke up with a sense of purpose I had not felt in years. I made my coffee the way Sarah had taught me, ate my breakfast at the kitchen table where we had shared so many meals, and then I sat down with a pen and paper. I started writing. I wrote about Sarah and me, about our 48 years together. I wrote about Diane and the secret family Sarah kept hidden. I wrote about the funeral and the letter and the long journey toward forgiveness and understanding. I wrote about Sunday dinners and photo albums and white lilies on a grave. I wrote because I wanted to remember. I wrote because I wanted Diane and Jasmine and Robert to have the story, to understand the full truth of who Sarah was and who I was and how we all found each other. I wrote because Sarah's story deserved to be told. Not just the pretty parts, but the messy, complicated, painful parts too. Took me 3 months to finish writing everything down. 3 months of remembering and crying and healing with every word I put on paper. When I was done, I had a stack of pages that told the complete story of Sarah Thompson, the woman who loved too much and too secretly and too fearfully, but who loved nonetheless. I made copies of the manuscript and gave one to Diane, one to Jasmine, and one to Robert. Keep this, I told them. This is your grandmother's story. This is your history. And someday, when you have children of your own, you can show them this and help them understand that people are complicated, that love is messy, and that forgiveness is always possible if you are brave enough to choose it. Diane hugged me tight, tears streaming down her face. Thank you, Marcus. Thank you for giving us this gift. 2 years after Sarah died, Diane got married again. She had met a good man named Thomas who treated her with kindness and respect and loved Jasmine and Robert like they were his own children. She asked me to walk her down the aisle. I stood outside the church in my best suit, my arm linked with Diane's, and I thought about how Sarah would have felt seeing this moment. She would have been terrified that I would be angry, that I would refuse, that I would reject Diane on her special day. But she also would have hoped, deep in her secret heart, that I would say yes, that I would step into the role she never let me have while she was alive. "Are you ready?" I asked Diane as the wedding music started playing. She looked at me with tears in her eyes. "I wish she were here." "She is," I said, touching the locket I still wore every day under my shirt. "She is right here with us. And she is so proud of you." We walked down that aisle together, and I gave Diane away to her new husband just like a father would. And when the ceremony was over and Diane was dancing with Thomas, Jasmine came up to me and took my hand. "Grandpa Marcus," she said, "that was beautiful. Thank you for being here for Mom." "I will always be here for your mom," I said. "For all of you. That is what family does." Jasmine hugged me tight. "I love you, Grandpa. I love you too, sweetheart." And in that moment, surrounded by music and laughter and celebration, I realized something profound. Sarah's secret had nearly destroyed me, but in the end, it had given me something I never thought I would have. Family. Not just Sarah's family, but my family. People who called me Grandpa and invited me to their milestones and checked on me when I was lonely and filled my house with warmth and love. 3 years after Sarah died, Robert graduated from college. He invited me to the ceremony, and I sat in the audience with Diane and Thomas and Jasmine, cheering as loud as I could when they called his name. After the ceremony, Robert found me in the crowd and handed me a program. "Look at the dedication," he said. I opened it and read, "This degree is dedicated to my grandmother, Sarah Thompson, who taught me that love is bigger than secrets, and to my grandfather, Marcus Thompson, who taught me that forgiveness is stronger than anger." I could not speak. I just hugged Robert and cried into his shoulder while he patted my back and said, "Thank you, Grandpa. Thank you for giving us a chance." For years after Sarah died, Jasmine came to me with news. She had been accepted to medical school. She wanted to be a doctor, just like Sarah had always dreamed of being before life took her in a different direction. "Grandpa Marcus," Jasmine said as we celebrated with cake at my house, "I want you to know that I am doing this partly because of Grandma. She always told me I was smart enough to do anything I wanted. She believed in me even when I did not believe in myself. And I am doing it partly because of you too, because you showed me that it is never too late to build something beautiful out of something broken. I am so proud of you, Jasmine. Your grandmother would be beside herself with joy." "Do you think she knows?" Jasmine asked. "Do you think she can see all of this?" "I think she knows," I said, "and I think she is finally at peace." 5 years after Sarah died, on what would have been our 53rd wedding anniversary, I went to visit her grave alone. I brought white lilies like I did every week, and I sat down on the grass next to her headstone. "Hello, my love," I said. "It has been 5 years. 5 years without your voice, your laugh, your touch. 5 years of learning to live without you. And I will be honest, Sarah, it has been the hardest thing I have ever done. But I have to tell you, something incredible has happened. The family you kept hidden from me has become my family. Diane is like a daughter to me now. Jasmine and Robert call me Grandpa and mean it. They include me in holidays and birthdays and ordinary Sunday dinners. They have given me a reason to keep living when I thought my life was over." I paused, touching the locket I still wore every day. "I understand now why you did what you did. I understand the fear that drove you to keep secrets. I understand the impossible choice you faced between the family you made and the family you lost. And I forgive you, Sarah, completely and totally and without reservation." I forgive you." The wind rustled through the trees, and for a moment, it sounded like Sarah's voice whispering thank you. "I have written down our whole story," I continued. "The good parts and the bad parts and the complicated parts. And I have given copies to Diane and Jasmine and Robert so they will always know the truth about who you were. Not a saint, not a villain, just a woman who loved fiercely and fearfully and sometimes imperfectly, but always truly." I stood up, my old knees protesting, and placed the lilies on her grave. "Rest easy, my Sarah. Your story has been told. Your family has been united. Your legacy is love and forgiveness and the courage to keep trying even when things seem impossible. And I will carry that legacy with me until the day I join you." I walked away from that grave feeling lighter than I had in 5 years. The burden of anger and betrayal I had been carrying was finally, truly gone. In its place was something softer, warmer, more sustainable. Peace. Now, at 78 years old, I live a full life surrounded by the family Sarah gave me. We have Sunday dinners every week. We celebrate holidays together. We take trips to the beach house in South Carolina, the same one Sarah and I used to visit, and we make new memories in the place where old memories live. Diane has become my confidant, the person I call when I need to talk or when I am having a hard day. Jasmine is in her 2nd year of medical school, and she calls me every week to tell me about her classes and ask for advice. Robert is working as a teacher now, inspiring young minds just like Sarah used to do at the library. And I am happy, genuinely, truly happy. Not the same kind of happy I was with Sarah, but a different kind, a deeper kind. The kind of happiness that comes from knowing you have survived the worst and come out stronger on the other side. I have learned that love is not about perfection. It is about showing up, even when things are hard. It is about forgiveness, even when forgiveness seems impossible. It is about choosing connection over isolation, hope over bitterness, family over fear. Sarah taught me that even in death, even through her secrets and lies and impossible choices, she taught me the most important lesson of all, that love is always worth fighting for, even when the fight is painful and messy and complicated. So if you are listening to my story and wondering what you would do in my place, I will tell you this. Choose forgiveness. Choose family. Choose love. Even when it hurts. Even when it seems impossible. Even when every logical part of your brain is telling you to walk away and protect yourself. Because in the end, love is all we have. Love is what makes us human. Love is what connects us across time and space and even death. And love, as complicated and painful as it can be, is always, always worth it. My name is Marcus Thompson. I am 78 years old. I discovered at my wife's funeral that she had a secret family. And instead of letting that secret destroy me, I let it transform me. I let it teach me. I let it open my heart to a family I never knew I needed. And I have never been more grateful for anything in my entire life. If you liked my story, you can support me by making a donation so I can write more stories. Thank you in advance. And you, what would you do in this person's place? I would love to hear your opinion, so please share it with me in the comments. I'm always curious about what you all think, and also write me where you heard this story. For more life stories like this, like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are many other stories waiting for you. With heartfelt greetings, until next time.